Hello! A nation which I have hyped up for majority of 2022 to reach new heights, Serbia, have actually reached an all-time low in terms of World Cup performances since becoming an independent nation. Now the title of this video may be a little bit exaggerated, as Serbia do not have a very long legacy to begin with. The nation's independence in the football world only came to existence in 2006. Way before then, Serbia were part of Yugoslavia, which also consisted of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia, Macedonia, Kosovo, and Montenegro. Yugoslavia had many notable runs in tournaments. Since the World Cup's creation in 1930, they made it to 2 semifinals and 3 quarterfinals. In the Euros, they were runners-up twice and semifinalists once. Their final major appearance in international football was in the 1992 Euro Qualifiers, where they topped their group, but due to the war, they were banned from participating, and FIFA gave second place in their group Denmark their spot instead. And funnily enough, they won the tournament that year. But after the breakup of Yugoslavia, the national team of Serbia and Montenegro came to existence in 1992, but they still represented the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia in the 1998 World Cup, getting knocked out to Netherlands in the round of 16s. Also in 2000, they were able to make a solid run in the Euros, making it to the quarterfinals. Montenegro claimed independence just before the 2006 World Cup. Serbia and Montenegro still unified together in the 2006 World Cup, just no longer labeled as Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. Unfortunately though, they finished last in their group with 0 points. So with the unification of other countries, Serbia actually has a very solid history in the football world. But ever since 2006, they have never qualified for the Euros at the time of this recording. They qualified for 3 out of 4 World Cups, which a nation should take pride in, but got knocked out of the group stage every single time. Sure, they're a population with just over 6 million people. But it truly is puzzling how this country have never seemed to really make a solid impact in these major tournaments, as they have continued to produce some incredible players even after the breakup of Yugoslavia, as well as other sports in recent years. Today, we'll go over the rocky road this country has had in the football world since becoming independent. Now please note that if you're new here, no hate is intended in this video. I know I have HRV written on my YouTube name. Croatia is my favorite national team, but I truly support all the other ex-Yugoslavian teams right after them. So although it might seem like it on the surface, this video is not intended for me to poke fun at Serbia. Because in reality, I went to Qatar recently to watch both Croatia and Serbia play. And unfortunately, I cannot say the Serbia experience was as enjoyable due to such a disappointing performance each match. I simply just want to go over the history of the Serbia national team since becoming independent, and what caused them to fail each time. I'm hoping this video is found in the future where Serbia qualify for their first ever Euros and win the whole thing. Maybe. But today, we're just going to be taking a look at the past. Before we start with the year 2006, I just want to say big shout out to my friend Macwell for essentially giving me the idea for today's video concept, as he already created his own legacy of failure videos for PSG and Manchester City, and I'm hearing rumors that he's about to create one for Belgium as well. He has done a ton of other incredible video essays as well. If you somehow haven't heard of his channel already, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. As previously stated, Serbia still participated in the 2006 World Cup along with Montenegro, where they had their worst World Cup run in history. Losing to Argentina 6-0 was an absolute shock, as they had the best defensive record out of any team from Europe in the World Cup qualifiers prior to this tournament. At the same time though, Vidic, who went on to become one of the best defenders in the world, was not available to play due to injuries and suspension for the duration of this tournament. Their manager, Ilija Petkovic, immediately got sacked after the poor campaign. After the tournament was over though, with Serbia and Montenegro no longer joining forces in international football, it was now the perfect time to look over those terrible World Cup results and begin the rebuild. They appoint Javier Clemente from Spain to take charge for their Euro 2008 qualifiers. He's managed many clubs in Spain, but a decade ago since his appointment, he was Spain's national team manager. Their group consisted of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belgium, Finland, Kazakhstan, Poland, and Portugal. This group is actually pretty difficult, but this generation of Serbia players also looks to be very promising. Vidic, who has already been mentioned, has just signed for Manchester United. As we all know, he went on to have a fantastic career with the Red Devils. Ivanovic, who is known to be a Chelsea icon now, at this period of his career, just joined Lokomotiv Moscow. Nikola Žigic also just earned himself a transfer to La Liga after doing very well for himself at Crvena Zvezda. This is not an exaggeration, he was amongst one of the tallest strikers in football history. Dejan Stankovic has been situating himself at Inter Milan. This man just loves to score bangers. He went on to score 6 goals and got 10 assists this coming season for his club. Milan Jovanovic just joined Standard Liège this year, where he quickly became the fan favorite. he scored 14 goals his first season there. As you can see from just these examples alone, this really is the beginning of a takeover for this generation of talent. So although they might not be guaranteed favorites to qualify for the Euros, there is no reason why they shouldn't believe. And their confidence was booming at the beginning of the qualifier run. They were undefeated in their first 4 qualifier matches, which all happened in 2006. Žigić scored in every single match they won. Fast forward to 2007 though, and their dream of qualifying for the Euros for the first time ever as an independent nation has slipped through their fingertips. Resuming international break in March, although Žigić was able to score again, they lost 2-1 to Kazakhstan. They drew with Portugal later 1-1 the same month, which is not a bad result considering it's Portugal, but it was an unsuccessful break where Serbia were only able to get 1 point. The next break in June, Serbia started off with redemption after beating Finland 2-0, but then having a thriller not going their way against Belgium 3-2. That was actually their last loss in this qualifier campaign. But after that, 3 consecutive draws, and just 1 nice thrashing against Azerbaijan. Due to getting so many draws, they had to beat Poland at the end in order to qualify for Euro 2008. But they get another draw, and Poland and Portugal advance to Euro 2008. At the end, Portugal being 3 points in front of Serbia. They also shared points with Finland, so the race to the top was really close. But Serbia falls short their first ever go as an independent nation. With Javier Clemente picking up too many draws and failing the country of Serbia, he gets sacked immediately. Serbia quickly replaced him with Miroslav Đukić, who seemed to be the right man for the job as he led Serbia to the finals of the U21 Euros. Unfortunately, his time was cut short after the Olympics, where he failed to win a single game and also criticized the Football Association for not allowing him to call up better players, along with ignoring certain young talent to evolve in the squad. Serbia now needs to prepare to qualify for their first ever World Cup, and the man who took charge to replace Đukic's short run just 2 weeks before their first match was Radomir Antić, who already had quite the coaching career, managing all of Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid. Something he was noted for immediately in this qualifier run was utilizing the young talent, such as wonder kid at the time Zoran Tosic, who caught many eyes during his time at Partizan. He earned a transfer to Manchester United shortly after. Also, someone who Đukić was criticized for ignoring, Miloš Krasić, was making a heavy impact at CSKA Moscow. Kolarov, who was still competing to be part of the national team, was 21 at the time and a vital part to Lazio's squad. He struggled to make many appearances at first, but towards the second half of the qualifier campaign, he made his mark. He even strived to win over players with multiple nationalities. He won over Borussia Dortmund center back Subotic, who chose Serbia over Bosnia and the United States, but failed to bring in Bojan Krkić after multiple attempts, who chose to represent Spain. I hate to say it, but he didn't seem to be the biggest loss at the end. And for those players who I already mentioned earlier, by the time these qualifiers began in the second half of 2008, the squad has seemed to evolve even more. Their qualified group consisted of Austria, Faroe Islands, France, Lithuania, and Romania. Unlike the Euro qualifiers where first 2 qualify, the World Cup qualifiers have first advancing automatically, second going through to a playoff round. On the surface, it looked to be that Serbia would be striving for that playoff spot, with France being the favorites to qualify. But as some of us might be familiar with, and if you don't already know, Serbia can be overachievers in World Cup qualifiers. Despite getting 2 losses to France at the beginning and Lithuania at the end, they topped the group just being 1 point in front of France. France got less losses, but they simply drew too much, which was Serbia's problem last time for the Euro qualifiers. Their most impressive win was against Romania, beating them 5-0, where we saw a late Jovanovic brace. Jovanovic went on to score 5 goals throughout the entire qualifier run, which had him score more goals than the likes of Thierry Henry. It was obviously a huge achievement for the national team to automatically qualify for their first ever World Cup over France, who were just in the final in 2006. France obviously went on to do the job in the playoffs, but Serbia went into 2010 with less stress and more confidence to make an impact in their first World Cup. Serbia's group was going to be difficult to a degree no matter what, because they were placed in pot 4 in the draw. And although it was not an easy group on the surface, it was one where they could easily prove their class. Germany looked to be the most difficult one on paper. Australia will be going in with confidence after making it to the round of 16 last time around. And of course, we all know Ghana had a very memorable run this year. Ghana's memorable run actually started with Serbia, and it was an interesting affair as Ghana's manager at the time, Milovan Rajevac, was Serbian. This was not an ideal fixture for Serbia, as Rajevac knew how to break down Serbia very well, and he is very familiar with the players and staff of the national team. Antić set up Serbia the same way he had for his tremendous qualified campaign, using a 4-4-2 formation where he normally took advantage of the flanks, using Jovanovic and Krasić out wide. But Ghana came prepared by double-teaming these players in order to completely cut them off. Rajevac also made sure to play with 3 central midfielders to absolutely cut off Serbia's 2 central midfielders, Miljaš and Stankovic. In the 74th minute, Lukovic gets a double yellow and is sent off. Oddly after that, Serbia looked to be more tactically sound, getting some solid opportunities, until Kuzmanovic gave away a handball from a harmless cross, gifting Ghana a late penalty. Serbia's first match as an independent nation in the World Cup ended in a defeat. And it was not looking good for them, as Germany were their next opponent, who just demolished Australia 4-0. It was still a must-win for Serbia, so Antic decided to change up the formation in order to utilize 3 central midfielders this time around. Germany striker Miroslav Klose gets a double booking very early on in the 37th minute, and shortly after, Serbia managed to score thanks to a Žigić header straight to the feet of Jovanovic. Germany did get a few chances after where they could have equalized, but they very much struggled. Vidic even replicated Kuzmanovic's mistake against Ghana and gave away a penalty, but Stojkovic saves the penalty this time, and Serbia hold on to their 1-0 lead to the end. The biggest win at the time in Serbian football history. This match brought the country to absolute hope and determination to make it to the next round. All they had to do was get a result against Australia, and they were through to the knockouts. Both teams had many opportunities squandered, but Australia later on looked clear with the 2-0 lead. Pantelic picked up a late one, but it wasn't enough. Serbia lost 2-1 and got knocked out after all the hope and belief was there. A group filled with twists, the one nation that was able to beat a monstrous Deutschland falls short to last place. Vidic, who is regarded as a remarkable defender in world football, has left many Serbian critics on edge. The first goal conceded by Cahill had the media and fans saying a player of his stature simply should have marked better, not to mention the risk he put Serbia in against Germany. This match definitely haunted Serbia, as what looked to be a very hopeful year for the nation turned out to be a failure at the end. Antic also received a 4-match ban after insulting the referee against Australia. For this qualifier run, apart from many youngsters beginning to take some notice, the only noticeable squad advancements this time around included Milan Jovanovic, the one to score the winner against Germany, to earn a transfer to Liverpool after continuously impressing in the Belgian league. Unfortunately though, he went on to be one of their worst ever signings. Their Euro qualifier group looked possible. Their only opponent that looked to outmatch them on paper was Italy, but they were not the only national team to ruin their parade. For these Euro qualifiers, first gets automatic qualification, second goes to a playoff round. Antic's 4-match ban had him missing almost half of the Euro 2012 qualifier matches. The FA still backed him to continue as manager, with faith that Serbia would produce even without him on the pitch. It all started well with the 3-0 win against Faroe Islands, but with just getting a draw against Slovenia, the FA decide to sack him as they are desperate for some leadership enforcement. Antic and the FA part ways, with Antic suing them in the process, and he is replaced with Vladimir Petrovic. The decision did not seem to age well at all, as Petrovic's first match in charge is a loss to Estonia 3-1, and unfortunately, it went even more downhill from there. Serbia's next fixture was against Italy away in Genoa. Many Serbian ultras took the journey and fought with police outside the stadium, which resulted in a massive delay. Once the match began, Serbia fans continuously threw flares and other objects onto the pitch, including destructing the stadium itself. Even with the Serbia national team trying to calm their fans down, it was all way too chaotic for the match to continue. So the referee Craig Dawson called for the match to be suspended. The rampage was expected to occur to some degree, but not to this level. It was due to the fact that their goalkeeper Stojkovic, who started his career at Crvena Zvezda, signed for their rivals Partizan. Due to these fans causing such disruption, Italy were given a 3-0 victory. Now, of course, Italy were looking like favorites in this match to begin with, but the what-if factor should still be present, as Serbia were able to top France in the World Cup qualifiers last time. With already 2 losses though, it was not looking good. They bounced back against Northern Ireland with a narrow victory and then got halted by Estonia again. This time just a draw, but that seemed to be the last of Serbia's slippings for at least some time. Serbia were able to get 2 more victories against Northern Ireland and Faroe Islands. And to prove even more that there should be a what-if factor, if that match between Italy and Serbia actually carried on, the next time they faced Italy, it actually finished in a 1-1 draw. This made the race between Italy, Estonia, and Serbia all neck and neck by the final match day. With the match in hand, all Serbia had to do to get that playoff spot over Estonia was to not lose to Slovenia. But that match was simply a nightmare. Vršić scores one of the most ridiculous free kicks at the end of the first half, and Serbia do get a penalty with the chance to equalize, but Vidic fails to convert. Thanks to this 1-0 defeat, Serbia finished 3rd, in what now could qualify for a playoff spot, but back then it meant f*** all. After this howler of a campaign, Vidic retires from the Serbia national team after suffering heavy criticism throughout his years of representation. The penalty miss was the icing on the cake, but fans and media criticized his commitment to Serbia. One of the best center backs of this generation, along with incredible midfielder from Inter Milan, Dejan Stankovic, who just won Coppa Italia the same year, leaves the Serbia national team. Oh yeah, and of course Petrovic immediately gets sacked. It was indeed an uncertain future for this nation. Serbia for the World Cup 2014 qualifiers were in a group with 2 ex-Yugoslavian countries. They also had to be tested against this upcoming golden generation of Belgium, along with Scotland and Wales. The most notable advancements of the squads are youngsters such as Nemanja Matic appearing into the scene, Nastasic on Fiorentina, whose son earns a transfer to Manchester City, a few Partizan prospects such as 17-year-old Alexander Mitrovic and 18-year-old Markovic. Serbia struggled both times they faced Belgium, losing both matches and one finishing 3-0. They also had setbacks to the other ex-Yugo nations in this group, both times they went away, losing to Macedonia and Croatia. Their battle against Croatia at home was very heated. Matic picked up a double yellow for 2 aggressive fouls, and then Šimunic picks up a straight red for an even more aggressive tackle. The match finished 1-1 with both Mitrovic and Mario Mandzukic scoring in Belgrade. So with some early setbacks, Serbia were found trailing for the majority of this qualifier run, finishing 3rd. 3 points behind playoff holders Croatia, and 8 points behind top of the group Belgium. To be fair, this was a very difficult group, and considering Serbia were going through a massive transitional phase, losing so many key players, even in the attack, no more Žigić, it was not such a prominent failure compared to other qualifier runs. With that being said, this was still Serbia's first missed World Cup as an independent nation. The new Euro qualifier group was not easy on the surface, but 100% doable, especially with the change of leniency for qualifying, where now 1st and 2nd automatically qualify, 3rd go into the playoffs. This should be Serbia's year to at least make it to the playoffs. Portugal and Denmark will be the toughest opponents on the surface, and the crowd just need to put politics to the side when facing Albania. Unfortunately, they did not. After drawing with Armenia in the opening match, Serbia had to face Albania at home in Belgrade. Of course, with all the tension between the two countries, it was already a bad idea to have them in the same group in the first place. During the match, a drone flew over the pitch with the flag attached, carrying an Albanian nationalist banner with an image of Greater Albania. This obviously massively upset Serbia, and the drone went down far enough for Mitrovic to grab the flag, and that's when all hell broke loose. A couple of Albanian players went to wrestle it off him, and while running off with it, violence began to occur on the pitch and the stands. While Kolarov and Ivanovic tried to protect the Albanian players, they still had to storm off the pitch as it became way too chaotic. With the match once again being suspended, this all resulted in Albania getting an automatic 3-0 victory, along with Serbia getting a 3-point reduction. This of course ruined the team's spirit to fight on, because along with this 3-point reduction, they now had to face a lot of difficult opponents. So their chance to qualify for the Euros were extremely slim. They only managed to grab 2 wins after that, against Albania away and Armenia. They would have had 7 points at the end, but thanks to the point reduction, they finished with 4. Portugal and Albania automatically qualify, Denmark go to the playoffs. I'm not going to go into the depth between the conflict of Serbia and Albania because it's obviously a sensitive topic, but the fact stands that this match, where they got that point reduction and an automatic 3-0 loss, was the end of the hopes and dreams of Serbia to qualify for the Euros. And while it did look to be dark times, the national team of Serbia still had a massive reason to stay hopeful though. As the U20 World Cup happened during this Euro qualifier campaign, their U20 team won the entire tournament, beating Brazil in the final 2-1. This was hope for the future, and proof that Serbia has a lot of exciting talent that could make a massive mark. Now it's time for the ultimate reset button. Serbia failed to qualify for the last 3 major tournaments, but they need to make it to Russia. With Muslin now in charge, and an extremely doable group with no real European giant, there was no room for excuses. Matic has been making an impact at Chelsea, Alexander Mitrovic to Newcastle, Tadic is also doing his Premier League duties, Markovic became the next Serbia-Liverpool flop, but regardless, the squad was looking strong. And Serbia pulled through in these qualifiers massively, topping the group but making it a close affair with Ireland and Wales. All 3 of these nations only lost once the entire campaign. Alexander Mitrovic had really made his mark, as the 21-year-old grabbed 6 goals in this qualifier campaign, being a massive influence as to how Serbia qualified for their first major tournament in 8 years. With Muslin doing a fantastic job leading this country to Russia, he was still heavily criticized by the media for not allowing many talents to be part of the squad, as many just went on to win the U20 World Cup. But the biggest name of them all that he left out was Lazio midfielder Milinkovic-Savic. Serbian media and fans attacked Muslin for leaving out this star continuously, which resulted in the FA sacking him after his achievement with the national team. It was a big risk, but the FA seemed to think it was worth it. I guess it's not the craziest thing in the world, as we've just seen Morocco make it to the semi-finals in a World Cup, sacking their manager months before the tournament began. So in came former player Mladen Krstajic to take this team to glory. His only managerial experience before claiming this role was being an assistant to Muslin. But the FA thought he was the right man to do wonders with this incredible generation of talent. It was already a beautiful sight to see Milinkovic-Savic included for a tough group Serbia would have to face: Brazil, Switzerland, and Costa Rica. Serbia's first match in this difficult group was against what should have been the easiest opponent, Costa Rica. Of course, it was ridiculous to underestimate this side, as in the last World Cup they had a phenomenal run. The defense on both sides were definitely tested. After Keylor Navas continues to frustrate the Serbian attack, Kolarov scores a glorious free kick, with that being the only goal in the entire match, and Serbia grabbed their second ever World Cup win. Next up is definitely more of a difficult opponent, Switzerland. This match insinuated the birth of a new rivalry, with Serbia fans provoking the ethnic Albanians on the team, such as Xhaka and Shaqiri. And coincidentally, after Mitrovic scores an early goal in the 5th minute, both Xhaka and Shaqiri score in this match. Their Albanian celebrations caused them to receive a heavy fine from FIFA. Still though, they were the last ones laughing, as Serbia need to get a result against Brazil if they want to advance to the next round. This already looked to be a difficult test for Serbia, and unfortunately it very much was. A 2-0 loss to the quote-unquote favorites every single World Cup put Serbia in 3rd place. A step up from the 2010 World Cup in terms of placements, but when it came to points it was the exact same. Would it have been different if Muslin was still in charge? We'll never know, but Serbia didn't necessarily play poorly. Mitrovic could have been more clinical in some moments, but apart from that, you saw the fighting spirit in this national team was very much fired up. Unfortunately though, Serbia's defense will now be weakened a bit after Ivanovic steps down from the national team. Krstajic keeps his job ahead of the Euro 2020 qualifiers, with the tough task once again with Portugal in their group. Again though, first 2 places in this group automatically qualify. This time, however, Serbia have already secured a playoff spot due to topping their Nations League group. But still, even if they could not get at least 3rd with 2 massive underdogs in this group, Luxembourg and Lithuania, there would be a massive problem. These qualifiers began towards the end of the same season. Luka Jovic had that phenomenal season with Frankfurt, which earned him that transfer to Real Madrid, although in present day he did not live up to the hype. At this time, this made Serbia's attack definitely look more dangerous. Serbia are off to a decent start, drawing with Portugal 1-1 on their first match day, but then got obliterated by Ukraine 5-0. This is Serbia's most hefty loss ever. Krstajic gets to manage one more match for the national team against Lithuania since it fell on the same international break, where they won 4-1 with the Mitrovic brace. However, due to such a lifeless performance against Ukraine, he immediately gets sacked straight after. Serbia replaced him with Montenegro's manager, Ljubiša Tumbakovic. His first match is a 4-2 loss to Portugal, but then Serbia are able to bounce back thanks to 3 Mitrovic braces in a row. The final match against Ukraine, Mitro only could score 1. If only he got another brace, they would have won this match. But the match wouldn't have mattered, as Ukraine and Portugal caused so much destruction already, Ukraine even going undefeated, so the best Serbia could do was get 3rd, already securing that playoff spot, which put them in a path with Scotland, Israel, and Norway, having to face Norway first. Holland started to catch much of the public eye, which had many banking against Serbia in this match, but Holland was silenced. To be fair, Mitrovic was as well, failing to be clinical. But Milinkovic-Savic scores a late one, followed with the late Norman equalizer. Instead of a common Mitro brace though, Milinkovic-Savic gets his second in extra time, being the ultimate hero. The match finishes 2-1 and Serbia must face Scotland next.
Mighty Scotland.
Serbia are just 1 match away to qualifying for their first ever Euros, but immediately it's not looking good after Christie hits a crisp shot post and in. Scotland failed to hold on to that lead though, as in the 90th minute, Jovic gets a late equalizer from a corner. Nothing separates the teams in extra time, so it goes to penalties. Everyone is sinking their penalties in wonderfully, until out of all players, Alexander Mitrovic misses his. The man who went from scoring 10 goals in the qualifiers, just 1 goal shy from top goal scorer in their group, Cristiano Ronaldo, has now panicked in the final moments of Serbian football, causing his country to fail to qualify for the tournament for a 4th time in a row. Their best chance yet was halted down to the wire. Another massive heartbreak for Serbia once again. After this entire campaign, Matic and Kolarov both retired from the national team. With so many of these defensive players going on to retire now, Serbia's defense looks massively weakened. but their attack looks much stronger. In particular, wonder kid Dusan Vlahovic is breaking into the scene at Fiorentina, scoring a ridiculous amount of goals. Serbia also appoint Dragan Stojkovic as their new manager, otherwise known as Pixie, a legend in Yugoslavia. Throughout the qualifiers, he used a 3-in-the-back system to take advantage of the quality up top in the midfield. Although the defense looked much weaker compared to before, now missing legends like Ivanovic, Kolarov, Vidic, etc., he still had faith that this system would work. Their hopes will be to at least qualify for the playoffs, as they have to face Portugal again in the qualifiers. But at the same time, as we've seen it already, Serbia love to overachieve in World Cup qualifiers. Vlahovic and Mitrovic already show their dominance as a duo, grabbing 3 goals together in the first match against Ireland. Right after that, Serbia faced Portugal and had a brilliant response after being 2-0 down. After Jota's brace, they get 2 goals in the second half. In the dying minutes, though, there was a controversial moment of what looked to be a clear Ronaldo goal, as defender Milenkovic did not seem to make a clearance in front of the line. Regardless, ref says no. Even with Ronaldo fuming, the match finishes 2-2. Following that, Serbia grabbed 2 solid wins. But then, after Milenkovic was the quote-unquote hero against Portugal, he scored an own goal against Ireland, drawing them 1-1. That halted Serbia a bit. But after that, when Serbia were able to get their next 2 games against Luxembourg and Azerbaijan, Portugal also got caught up against Ireland, finishing with a draw against them. It was now heated between Serbia and Portugal, both with the same amount of points, going into this final match day where they had to face each other as well. What better way to end it? For some reason though, Irfan and I had a good feeling about Serbia in this match.
Serbia, momci moji, komšije iz druge zemlje, moramo pobediti ovu utakmicu. Portugal, they're trash, bro. Who's Ronaldo? Ronaldo who? Remember back in the day? We were chanting Messi, Messi, Messi. Exactly. We're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna give it to Serbia. 2-1. I'm sorry, Portugal, but come on. Always a Serbiu. Idemo za Srbijom. Hajmo!
And that's exactly what happened. Mitrovic redeems himself from his penalty miss against Scotland as he scores a last-minute winner against Portugal away. It was unbelievable scenes to see Serbia qualify in the dying minutes for the World Cup automatically, while Portugal were headed to the playoffs. This result had everyone hyped that Serbia would achieve wonders in Qatar, as they topped their qualified group undefeated, and their squad began to set outstanding records. Mitrovic was playing in the championship at the time, and went on that year to break the top goal scorer record in the league by a significant margin. 43 goals by the end of the season, breaking the previous record of 31. Vlahovic also equalized Cristiano Ronaldo's record of scoring the most goals in the Serie A in a single calendar year. AAvfx reported that Dusan Tadic broke Messi's assist record in a single calendar year. Unfortunately, they miscounted some friendlies, but it is still incredible to see that he even came so close. Kostic this same year was a key contributor to Frankfurt's Europa League trophy. Milinkovic-Savic was not slowing down from Lazio whatsoever. There were so many positives to look forward to for the Serbian national team. Again, the only thing that seemed to be a bit worrisome was their defense. Both Pixie and Charchi seemed to tactically sort out Serbia in fantastic fashion. Even more proof for that statement was shown after Serbia topping their Nations League group after this qualifier run. Surely, at this point, Serbia are not showing too many signs of weakness. They should be making it to the knockouts of this World Cup, right? Yup, Serbia were essentially placed in the same group as last time. The only difference is instead of Costa Rica, they would now have to face Cameroon. But the 2 sides that beat them in 2018 were there. Brazil were looking even more dangerous than 4 years ago, and Switzerland just had a very impressive Euro 2020 run, beating France in the round of 16.
It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
Regardless though, many stayed hopeful, as like I said, the attack in midfield absolutely escalated compared to before. The World Cup being pushed to the winter though was notorious for the schedule change, as there were so many injured players halfway through the season. For Serbia's case, their new striker duo Vlahovic and Mitrovic were both at risk to miss the tournament. They still were thrown onto the pitch for the opening match against Brazil, although many were skeptical for both to reach full performance potential, with maybe not receiving enough recovery time. Serbia were definitely not the favorites going into this match, as Brazil has gotten more hype than ever to go all the way in this tournament. They put up a decent display actually, but Brazil, who were bound to score, did so in absolute fashion, with Richarlison scoring one of, if not the best goal in the tournament. I had the feeling that Serbia could at least score one, but unfortunately that was not the case, and it finishes 2-0. Their next match would be against Cameroon, the country that almost everyone was ruling out in this group. Both teams were desperately looking for 3 points, as Cameroon also just lost to Switzerland. Serbia looked more dominant in the beginning. They got unlucky on a few opportunities, with Mitrovic hitting the post to him failing to make proper contact after Cameroon's back line were fumbling hard. But Cameroon get a corner in the 28th minute that they bury in. Then at the end of the first half, Pavlovic makes beautiful contact with the header after a set piece far away from Tadic. Although that looked to be the end of the first half, Serbia still managed to get another one before the whistle blew. Mitrovic finally gets his World Cup goal after getting unlucky earlier on, with an easy tap-in from a beautiful team play. It's 3-1 for Serbia. Surely they can't bottle this now. Cameroon had a very quick reply after Serbia's defense are pressed up so high for absolutely no reason. Abubakar very much takes his time and absolutely embarrasses Maksimovic in the process, dinks a beautiful chip in. 3-2 now. Now again, Serbia's backline continues to be pressed high for no reason, and Cameroon get a nice, easy, sweaty goal to equalize. 3-3 the final score, a dream game for any neutral, a nightmare for Serbia. The defense was outclassed and tactically exposed. Cameroon cracked the code which many European teams seem to struggle with. With just 1 point now, they'll be fighting for their lives to get revenge against Switzerland in the final group stage match. I even promised everyone that this match would be the most heated at the World Cup, with this newly created rivalry. And now it will be even more of the case as Serbia desperately need 3 points if they want to qualify for their first ever knockout stage. The atmosphere was very hostile after the last encounter, and the match was very high-paced, just like the Cameroon fixture. Živkovic immediately hits the post after a dangerous attempt. Then in the 20th minute, Switzerland bury one in after receiving the ball immediately from Pavlovic's interception. Very unlucky from him, but it's 1-0 for Switzerland. Again, out of all people, Shaqiri the goal scorer. Serbia with the quick response though. Kostic's cross to Mitrovic is perfectly placed in the 25th minute, and the number 9 gets his second goal in this World Cup. In the 35th minute now, Vlahovic gets a gift from the Swiss player to bury in his first ever World Cup goal. So all within 15 minutes apart, we see 3 goals from both teams. Next up, Mbolo gets a comfortable finish after a simple low pass. The half finishes at 2-2. Right as the second half begins, Switzerland with a beauty sequence of passes, and Freuler gets the third for the Swiss. With Serbia 1 goal down, Pixie does something which I simply do not understand. Vlahovic gets subbed out for Jovic, and then Milinkovic-Savic gets subbed out for Maksimovic. After that, Dusan Tadic, their best playmaker, got subbed out as well. Serbia at this point seemed to lose all the creativity. And in the dying minutes, we see poor sportsmanship across the pitch for basically the rest of the match. The match finishes at that. 3-2 for the Swiss. Serbia finished 4th with just 1 point, what was meant to be the destined World Cup where they were supposed to shine. It was not meant to be, and they go out in the most bitter fashion. Obviously, there was some motive behind it, but to this day, I still don't understand why Pixie decided to do those subs. I really feel like it costed the match as Serbia did not look the same whatsoever in the second half. With all the improvements Serbia have seemed to make within the span of 4 years' time, they could not do any better compared to before. The same exact scoreline against Brazil, again 1 goal down against Switzerland. If Serbia still had a quality, experienced back line like they did before, maybe we would have seen a different World Cup tale. Maybe it was just bad timing for this generation of players to shine in the attack in the midfield, and the defense to shine in the past. But regardless, it's no excuse, because the improvements made in every other department were excellent. This was an absolute letdown for the players, the fans, the staff. So many people had faith in Serbian football this year. The morale before this tournament began was at an absolute high, but ends once again skeptical for the future. So why do Serbia continuously fail at every go in a major international competition? Maybe expectation is always so high on these players that look to be at their prime, that they crumble under pressure. Vidic fell off with the national team too quickly, for example. Mitrovic last year gets exceptional numbers all year round, and although he scored 2 at the World Cup, he did have a few notable flukes in Qatar. Also in the past, there were unfortunately a few examples in this video where fans have halted Serbia's chances to succeed. For this World Cup, however, they were definitely the Turkey equivalents of Euro 2020. A hyped up nation this year that had exciting moments, but a forgotten team at the end for most neutrals that are simply just tuning in to watch the biggest tournament in the world. After hyping Serbia up for all of 2022, I am a bit afraid to continue that because I don't want to jinx them in the future. However, their Euro qualifier group looks extremely doable. Their only huge challenge will be Hungary, but top 2 will automatically qualify for the tournament. If they fall short to other teams, no disrespect to them, but that would be tragic. We'll see what the future holds for Serbia, but even then, if they do end up qualifying for their first ever Euro tournament, how far will they end up going? Because right now their track history is not on their side. 2022 was their year to break history. Maybe it'll be 2024 instead. I don't know. Some of this current generation of players will be fading away soon though, so they need to make an impact as soon as possible. Dusan Tadic, for example, is already 34. But with what Serbia have at their disposal, with the history they have in pretty much every international competition, they should be doing better. Serbia, best of luck in the future, although I just went through all of this I guess, unfortunate history. I will continue to cheer you on, and I really hope to see you guys at Euro 2024. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different to what I normally post, but I wanted to try something new. Thank you anyway for making it all the way to the end. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. If you're from Europe, good luck to your country in the Euro qualifiers, and I will see you all very soon. Take care. Laku noć.